Now the second part of the group 14 elements we have, except carbon and silicon, all other elements, that is germanium, tin and lead, form dihalides. Due to small atomic size and high electronegativity, high ionization enthalpy and absence of d orbitals, carbon differs from rest of the elements of group 14. Carbon shows catenation to the maximum extent since carbon-carbon bond enthalpy is very high, 348 kilojoules per mole. Due to the property of catenation and p-pi bond formation, carbon shows allotropy and exists in 4 allotropic forms. Alright, so out of that, we are having, that is, crystalline allotropic forms of carbon is your diamond, graphite, fullerenes and carbon nanotubes. And we have also got the amorphous form of, that is what you can say, carbon. We are also having the amorphous allotropic form of carbon, I should say. So diamond is coming to the crystalline allotropic forms of carbon, that is diamond. It is a three-dimensional network solid in which carbon is sp3 hybridized. Alright, carbon is sp3 hybridized. Each carbon is tetrahedrally linked to 4 other carbon atoms through strong carbon-carbon sp3 sigma bond. We can see this is the structure of diamond. You can see that it is a tetrahedral structure, a giant molecule. Alright, it's a giant molecule where carbon atom is sp3 hybridized. Each carbon atom is attached to 4 other carbon atoms. It is sp3 hybridized. So graphite, whereas graphite has a two-dimensional structure, a sheet-like layered structure consisting of a number of benzene ring fused together. You can see it here. It consists of a number of benzene ring which are fused together. We can say sheet-like structures. Now, if you see that diamond is the purest form of carbon, because of sp3 hybridization, carbon-carbon bond lengths in diamond are 1.54 angstrom. Since diamond exists as three-dimensional network solid, it is the hardest substance known with high density and high melting point. Since all the electrons are firmly held in Cc sigma bonds, there are no free electrons in a diamond crystal. Therefore, diamond is a bad conductor of electricity. Alright, diamond is a poor conductor, bad conductor, the absence of free electrons. However, it has the highest thermal conductivity of any known substance. We can say that. Because of its high refractive index, diamond can reflect and refract light. It is therefore a transparent substance. But if you compare with graphite, then that is like diamond, graphite is also the purest form of carbon. Because of the sp2 hybridization, the carbon-carbon bond length in graphite is 1.415 angstrom. We can say that. Since any two successive layers are held together by weak forces of attraction, one layer can slip over the other. This makes graphite soft and a good lubricating agent. Since only 3 electrons of each of carbon are used in making hexagonal rings in graphite, fourth valence electrons of each carbon is free to move, and this makes graphite a good conductor of heat and electricity. Unlike diamond, graphite has got free electrons, and these free electrons helps to slip one layer over the other, and this electron only helps the, what you can say, makes graphite a good conductor of heat and electricity. We can say that. Unlike diamond, graphite is a black substance and possesses a metallic luster. We can say that. It possesses a metallic luster. Graphite marks paper black, and therefore it is also called as black lead. Now, next is coming to fullerenes, another crystalline allotropic form of carbon. That is, fullerenes constitute a new family of carbon allotropes consisting of spheroidal molecules of composition C2N, where N is greater than 30. Greater than or equal to 30. Of all the fullerenes, C60 allotrope is the most stable. It looks like a soccer ball, and hence it is called as buckyball. You can see that. It looks like a soccer ball. You can see it. It is, for that reason it's called as a buckyball. Fullerenes constitute a new family of carbon allotropes. We can say that. How will you prepare fullerene? That is graphite, when it is burnt in electric arc, in presence of an inert atmosphere, helium or argon, it forms vaporized carbon. Carbon gets vaporized, graphite gets vaporized. Next, it condenses to form fullerene soot, which on undergoing chromatography over alumina gives fullerene C60 and fullerene C70. Again I repeat, when graphite is heated in an electric arc in an inert atmosphere, there is helium or argon, it gives vaporized carbon, that is vaporized graphite, you get it, which on condensation gives fullerene soot, On fullerene soot, when we go for chromatography in presence of alumina, it gives fullerene C60 and fullerene C70, we can say that. Unlike graphite or diamond, fullerene dissolves in organic solvents. A solution of C60 fullerene in toluene is purple, whereas that of C70 fullerene is orange red. Fullerenes are the only pure form of carbon, only pure form, because they do not have dangling edge or surface bonds which attract other atoms, as in the case of graphite or diamond. We have got in graphite or diamond dangling edges are there, na? Got it? So pointed edges, dangling, we can say that. Now, of all the fullerenes, C60 allotrope is the most stable. It looks like a soccer ball, you can see on the screen, and is sometimes called as a buckyball. I said you, it contains 26 membered ring. Alright, this is much more clear, we can say that this is 26 membered ring, we are having it here, 26 membered ring, and 12 5 membered rings. 5 membered rings is there and 6 membered rings is there. So we have got 26 membered ring and 12 5 membered rings are there. 6 membered rings are fused both to other 6 membered rings and 5 membered rings, but the 5 membered rings are connected only to a 6 membered ring. Alright, all the carbon atoms are equal and they undergo sp2 hybridization. So this was designed and built by the American architect Robert Buckminster Fuller, and so hence it is known as Buckminster fullerene, or simply it is also called as fullerene. Fullerene being covalent are soluble in organic solvent. They can be reduced electrochemically and react with group 1 alkali metals. It reacts with OSO4, there is osmium oxide, which adds across one of the double bonds in the cage, we can say that. Alright, we can say this one, it is it also forms platinum complexes. Alright, at present fullerene does not have any use, it does not have any practical use. However, it is projected that in future fullerenes may find many nanotechnological applications. At present it does not have any use, fullerenes, we can say. So now coming to the next one, carbon nanotube. Carbon nanotube consists of a two-dimensional array of hexagonal ring of carbon, just as in the layer of graphite or a chicken wire, we can say that. It consists of a graphite layer rolled into a cylinder and capped at each end with half of C60 fullerenes. Carbon nanotubes are very tough, about 100 times as strong as steel, we can say that. 100 times strong as steel. They are electrically conducting only along the length of the tube. Carbon nanotubes can be used to produce very strong composite materials. They are also being used as probe tips for analysis of DNA and proteins by atomic force microscopy. We can say AFM, it is said to be as. Clear? Now coming to the that is amorphous allotropic form of carbon, we have got coke, charcoal. Under charcoal we have got wood charcoal, which is we are getting it by heating wood in a limited supply of air, we can say that. Then we have got animal charcoal, which is known as bone black and is obtained by destructive distillation of bones, we can say that. Then we have got sugar charcoal. It's the purest form of amorphous carbon and obtained by the action of conch sulfuric acid on cane sugar, that is C12H1211. When it is heated with concentrated sulfuric acid, it gives carbon and water. We have got activated charcoal. All forms of charcoal are highly porous substances. Alright, carbon black or lamp black, it is an almost pure form of amorphous carbon containing 98 to 99% carbon present in it, we can say that. How do we get it? When methane is heated in limited supply of air in presence of oxygen, we get carbon black, that is C plus water, we can say that. Clear? So in this way we are getting it. Now coming to there is silica. Silicon dioxide is commonly called silica. It is a covalent three-dimensional network solid in which each silicon atom is bonded to 4 oxygen atoms, we can say that, bonded to 4 oxygen atoms, which are arranged tetrahedrally around it, and each oxygen atom is attached to 2 silicon atoms by covalent bond. Whereas silicones, if you see, they are synthetic organosilicon polymers, we can say that, synthetic organosilicon polymers containing repeated R2SiO, that is units held by Si single bond O Si bonds, we can say that. That is Now, in forms, if you see the amorphous forms of silica, then two important amorphous forms of silica are silica gel and Kesselgar. How do you prepare silica gel? SiCl4 when reacts with water, it gives HCl plus SiO2 dot 2H2O. SiO2 dot 2H2O, which is silica gel. And Kesselgar, it is another form of amorphous silica. It's a porous white powder and is used in the filtration plants as an abrasive and as an inert support or filler. We can say that. For example, dynamite is a mixture of glyceryl trinitrate and glyceryl dinitrate absorbed on Kesselgar. We can say that. Clear? So, silicons are, I already said you, that is organosilicon polymers. They are known as silicons are. Got it? So, you can see it here, silicons, it is held together by SiO-Si linkages, and this is the structure of silicon carbide. We can say that. Silicon carbide, the structure, you can see it there. The silicon carbide structure I have shown you there. Got it? So, this is the structure of silicon carbide, the tetrahedral structure it is. We can see there is a carbon atom is held together by 4 silicon atoms, a tetrahedral structure. So, coming to silicates. Silicates are the compounds in which the anions present are discrete SiO4 4 minus tetrahedra or a number of such units joined together corners. We can say that. Pyrosilicates contain, so under silicates we have got pyrosilicates, cyclic or ring silicates, seed silicates, many types of silicates are there. So first is your pyrosilicates. It contains single discrete unit of SiO4 tetrahedron. So you can see different types of structure, the single chain, double chain silicates you can see there, and here you can see that is phyllosilicates and the cyclic silicates. You can see the structure here, structure of phyllosilicates and cyclic silicates, we can say that. So now contains single discrete and unit of SiO4 4 minus tetrahedron, example zircon, Zr SiO4. Pyrosilicates contain Si2O76 minus anion found by joining two SiO4 4 minus tetrahedra through one corner, that is oxygen atom, or thought vitite, we can say that. Cyclic or ring silicates are obtained when two oxygen atoms are per tetrahedron shared to form closed ring with general formula SiO3 2 minus, example beryl, we can say that. This is your that is nothing but is your cyclic silicates, ring silicates, we can say that. I have already showed you. Once again you can see. Now next is this is your single chain and double chain silicates, we can say that. Single chain, double chain. So chain silicates are obtained by sharing two oxygen atoms of each tetrahedron in such a way that a linear single strand chain of general formula SiO3 2 minus is formed, example spondumin. So this is your chain silicates, as you can see it here, single chain and double chain I have shown you here. The two chains are joined, that is called double chain. Sheet silicates are obtained by sharing three oxygen atoms of each tetrahedron, general formula Si2O52 that is minus, we can say that ion, example kaolinite. Three-dimensional silicates obtained by sharing all the four corners of each tetrahedron, for example quartz and this. So this is your pyrosilicates, we can say that. Clear? And the structure I've already shown you. Now zeolites, the three-dimensional silicates in which some of the silicon atoms are replaced by aluminium ions, and then the negative charge is balanced by cations such as Na plus, K plus, Ca2 plus, etc., called feldspar. And zeolites. Zeolites are widely used as catalysts in petrochemical industries for cracking of hydrocarbons and isomerization. Hydrated zeolites called permatite are used as ion exchange for softening of hard water. Already we have studied. So this is the structure of zeolite, you can see. This is structure of one of the zeolite, you can see it here. The ring structure, the cyclic structure, you can see it here. And as I said you, that zeolite is used in softening of hard water to soft water. Already we have studied in the hydrogen chapter that how the hard water is made soft. The hard water, you can see it's coming from one pipe. Permatite is there. It makes the water soft, which we are getting it from another pipe at the top, and after the permatite gets exhausted, it is regenerated permatite by adding NaCl solution, and the calcium zeolite, magnesium zeolite, it's being again converted into sodium zeolite. There is a permatite, we can say, and again the zeolite is ready to make the hard water soft, and the waste substances, calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, calcium sulfate, magnesium sulfate, is being thrown out from the bottom at the tap, you can see it there, the waste is being thrown out from there. Got it? In this way, continuously hard water is coming through one pipe and soft water we are getting through another tap, we can say. Constantly this process goes on. You have read it already. It's just quite cheap process. It is quite easier process to be done, we can say that. So this is all about this particular chapter.